So Russell Brand got in trouble because this story that we reported, Clinton's lawyer was charged for lying in the Trump-Russia origin probe. Here is when Clinton lawyer was charged, the Russia scam is now indicted. In accusing Clinton campaign lawyer Michael Sussman of lying to the FBI, special counsel John Durham offers new evidence of the fabrications behind the Trump-Russia conspiracy theory. And that's Aaron Mate, who won the award for debunking RussiaGate. The indictment of Hillary, which is an award he shares with this show, so there's not just one award-winning guy on the show today. And the indictment of Hillary Clinton's lawyer is an indictment of the RussiaGate wing of the U.S. media. That's Glenn Greenwald right there. And so that's not the big story here. The big story is here, Russell Brand covered it. So he covered it on his YouTube show. It's got 2.1 million views, which is about 1 million more than anybody else. And so here's what he said about it.
The world moves so fast, there's almost no time for history. It seems like years ago that we were hearing that Trump was colluding with Russia, that he wouldn't have won the election without Russia, that his whole presidency was a kind of Putin plot. Well, there's now serious evidence that it was the Clinton campaign and Hillary Clinton acolytes that were directly involved in the generation of what has proven to be a conspiracy. Untrue. Think about how much media you watched. Me, a person who I would think, broadly speaking, is from the left, a liberal, certainly not a Trump supporting Republican, with respect to those of you that are, I find myself in awe, gobsmacked, flabbergasted and startled by these revelations that RussiaGate was a democratic conspiracy.
So he just said that, and immediately he's the new Susan Sarandon on Twitter. That's it. No, it's nobody. Everybody's mad at Russell Brand, but nobody's mad at the politicians who enriched themselves during RussiaGate, which was absolute bullshit, all while simultaneously they were expanding Trump's spying powers and fast-tracking his judges. Nobody's mad at those people. I wonder if maybe someday the United States will hold its politicians to the same standard it holds comedians who are from another country. All right, so because they went nuts on him. So here they are on Twitter. David Weissman, Blue Checker, says, good morning to everyone except Russell Brand for believing that Trump was right and calling the Russian collusion a witch hunt. I say, hey, good morning to the oil CEOs who are destroying our planet. Good morning to the warmongers who are causing death and destruction around the globe. Good morning to all the bought and sold politicians who sell the American people out for a paycheck. Good morning to the for-profit healthcare system. Good morning to everyone except Russell Brand because he called out my beloved RussiaGate fairy tale. And it wasn't just him. I've been interviewed by Russell Brand. This is Seth Abramson. I think Brand is generally smart and well-intended. I'm also certain that the sum total of his knowledge about the Trump-Russia scandal is dog shit. All that's happened here is that Glenn Greenwald found another mark for his Again, they're just ignoring the story, and just like with anything else they want to do, just like with RussiaGate. They just make it up. Never once saw Brand in the briefing room. Don't take medical advice from Joe Rogan. Don't take political journalistic advice from Russell Brand. Okay, they just went nuts on him. So they're calling him a far-right guy. And the real reason why they're calling him a far-right guy is because he's telling the truth about RussiaGate. And this is what he really believes here.
I don't believe in contemporary bipartisan democracy. I believe in real democracy, community democracy, collective democracy, power for the people that are affected by the decisions that are made by that democratic process, the removal of lobbying, control and regulation of powerful economic forces that dominate the legislative and administrative procedure. So I don't see either of those parties as being any better. And when I had my chat on my podcast with Crystal Ball there, she said, no, you can make the Democratic Party good again. And they're sure there's loads of you think you can, like under Trump, we love the Republic. But I think both of these beasts are of no value to ordinary folk like you and me, and never will be until the relationships between government, media, big tech, big business are properly investigated, until there's some real regulation, until there's a commitment to authenticity, truth, open-mindedness. I just say what I see within the limitations that I have. I'm not working for anybody else. I'm not paid by anybody else. I've got no interest in any particular outcome other than the betterment of human society, the betterment of our individual experience. I don't want more power. I don't want more money. What I want is more truth, more freedom for me, more freedom for you. you can't have one without the other. All you can have within those confines are different flavors of tyranny. And if your version of truth is oppressing other people's truth, if your version of victory is that you get to be the perpetrator rather than they get to be the perpetrator, then that's not something that interests me. Real values drawn from somewhere deeper than these superficial systems.
So that's what Russell Brand actually thinks, and he's the latest guy to be canceled for committing the crime of telling the truth. And our guest said, he tweeted this out, just that segment alone, after 3 days with no corporate backing, that segment he did about the Hillary Clinton RussiaGate scandal is almost 4 times larger than Don Lemon's audience. It's twice as large as Chris Hayes or Joy Reid's Comcast shows. And I'll bet the number of people under 55 watching is more than 10 times what those shows get. This is why employees of media corporations with the job title journalists so desperately agitate for more online censorship. They know they'll have no audience unless it's a captive one, and they know they'll be exposed if dissent from their lies and propaganda can be heard. Let's bring in Glenn Greenwald right now. So that was quite
Didn't you already bring me in? You're bringing me in again?
I'm bringing you in again. I brought you in at the...
All right.
This is for the clip. I brought you into the live stream, but I'm bringing you into the clip.
There's two bringing me in. There's 2 different places I enter. Okay,
Glenn,
got it.
I'm a professional broadcaster, Glenn, and there's some...
So that's why I was asking for your guidance, so I wasn't disoriented and confused.
So just follow my lead. It's just
right,
it's like we're dancing. I'll be the lead, okay? So, Glenn, I'm going to bring you in without a tie, even though I know you just had one on. I'm going to bring you in without a tie. The tie that you wear on Rumble. You didn't even wear it for my show. But here, I'm going to bring you in. Tell me, how crazy was this story?
So I've known Russell, not super well, but reasonably well for a lot of years. I find him one of the most thoughtful and insightful and independent-minded people who speak about politics. And I've said that for a long time, well before he just did a viral video based on my article and reporting on the indictment of Hillary's lawyers. And the one thing that you cannot deny about Russell is he, not in a distant way, but very recently, is as, kind of classically leftist as it gets. His primary political activism over the past 5 to 7 years has been vehement support for Jeremy Corbyn against the centrist and the Labor Party. So there's no denying his leftist bona fides. And yet he does, he's actually been wandering off the liberal reservation for quite some time now. I was actually on his show, I think maybe 2 or 3 months ago, and we spent a lot of time talking about RussiaGate and corporate media propaganda and how the Democrats are mostly just a brand and not a reality. But what was amazing, Jimmy, is for the crime of having done a segment that was based on an indictment from the Biden Justice Department. It was from the special prosecutor, John Durham, appointed by William Barr, but it was overseen by Merrick Garland and approved by Merrick Garland. And they indicted Hillary's lawyer in connection with this fraud they perpetrated about that story that Trump had this secret, clandestine, exotic server that allowed him to communicate with Alpha Bank, the Russian bank. And it was disseminated by Hillary's campaign and all of her friendly media allies. And the lie that her lawyer told was when he went to the FBI, pretending he was just this concerned citizen who had discovered this nefarious connection that he wanted the FBI to investigate, they asked him, are you here in your capacity representing anyone? And he said, no, I don't have any client. I'm just an American who loves my country. And it turned out he was representing Hillary's campaign. He billed Hillary and her campaign even for that meeting that he had with the FBI where he was trying to get them to go on this scavenger hunt, this wild goose chase in pursuit of this fake RussiaGate story. So for the crime of just walking through these facts in his YouTube program, it wasn't just that he was vilified on Twitter. There's a kind of industry website that covers the entertainment industry called The Wrap. It's kind of like Variety or I forget what the other one is
Hollywood
called.
Reporter?
What's that?
Hollywood Reporter?
Yeah, like Hollywood Reporter, Variety. There's another one with a D. So yeah, they covered just the entertainment industry, which obviously is still where he works. And it was not, Jimmy, this article was nothing except a bunch of angry liberal tweets, like the kind that you read, but a bunch more, just strung together with the headline that says, has Russell Brand lost his mind? And, just one after the next, accusing him of being clinically insane, of being in QAnon, of needing money, being desperate for money because his alimony payments from Katy Perry have ended. So he's, that all those accusations that anyone who deviates in any way from liberal orthodoxy is instantly subjected to. You're mentally ill. You are falling into this QAnon conspiracy theory. You're just grifting, all the standard ways that they have to try and destroy your reputation. And it was done by this website by doing nothing but calling and curating random tweets from nobodies that called into question his integrity, his mental health, everything. And of course, zero engagement with the argument itself.
Yes.
But it shows that RussiaGate remains this kind of like religiously holy narrative for various liberal sectors.
I look forward to the shit libs blaming Russell Brand for their loss in the midterms. That's coming. That's going to come too. So this is so that story, it blows the roof off of if RussiaGate was real. Why would Hillary Clinton's lawyer have to plant false RussiaGate stories with the FBI? Now we know the dossier was funded by Hillary Clinton, who lied about funding it for a year before they admitted they funded it. Was funded by the Clinton campaign, which was, again, all garbage, debunked. This whole thing, they've never produced any evidence that it was Russia that hacked into the DNC server because the DNC would never give their server to the FBI for it to be examined. So there's no evidence anyway, either way of anything. This is, again, Aaron Mate was given the I.F. Stone Award, the Izzy, for his meticulous debunking of this. But you just mention a fact that goes counter-narrative to the liberal agenda, and that's it. You're canceled. Joe Rogan, the reason why they call Joe Rogan a Trump or right-winger is because he endorsed Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders. He endorsed Bernie Sanders, who was to the left of the Democratic Party. So as soon as you get to the left of the Democratic Party, you're considered a right-winger. That's what they call me. That's what they call Joe Rogan. And that's what they call you. And that's what they call Russell Brand now. As soon as you get to the left of them and tell the truth about them, they try to bet you're deplorable. But how many more people can they do this to, you think?
Well, I think that's the point. I think 5 years ago, 8 years ago, it was genuinely harmful if the dominant sector of the corporate media united against you and set out to destroy your reputation. I've had that happen to me over the years, and I know the differing levels of impact that it has. I think what you're seeing now is this kind of like desperate fluttering about because they know they have lost this power. They know that they're really hated. So they can do it in their little circles. They have the power to cancel people in their little cliques. But these cliques are less powerful and more despised than ever. And that's why I went to point out, you can have every Huffington Post and BuzzFeed writer and Gizmodo shithead and like Vice and Vox and all the rest.
Deadline.
Sit there. Yeah, whoever. Sit there and say that, Russell Brand is insane or crazy. And you know what? He's on YouTube piling up more views, watching what he says and listening to what he says because they trust him than all of those people combined. And it's the same with you, and it's the same with me. We are uncancelable by them. And we have independent platforms. We have much larger audience sizes than they do, and they know that. It drives them, it fills them with rage and feelings of inadequacy. And that's one of the reasons why they're so embittered at anybody who wanders off, the reservation and defies what they say because they have no other power. This kind of like in-group herd behavior is all they have left. But it doesn't matter. The people who listen to Russell Brand listen to him because they fucking hate Rachel Maddow and Don Lemon and, Anderson Cooper and whoever writes for the Huffington Post. They trust Russell Brand because they know that notwithstanding his left-wing politics, he's going to tell them, as he just said in that clip, what he's actually seeing. And he's not captive to anybody, unlike them. And there's no substitute for that when it comes to fostering trust and confidence in the people with whom you're communicating.
I went to Russell Brand's website. He's playing a giant theater every 3 days, and I couldn't get a ticket. So I'm just saying, you're right.
He's going to be okay.
He's going to be okay. Same thing with Joe Rogan. The people who are constantly attacking Joe Rogan are the people who can't get 10,000 views on an article they write, whereas Joe Rogan is getting 200 million downloads a month to his podcast. So you go on Twitter and you see a different universe than what's actually happening in the world. Oftentimes, you do see a different universe on Twitter or Facebook. That's what's actually happening in the world. Because what's actually happening in the world is people are being drawn to Russell Brand. They're being drawn to you. Look how you're killing it on Rumble. They're being drawn to people like Joe Rogan, and they're being drawn to this show. And they can't stop it. Now, when they write hit pieces, they're comical, right?
And not only that, the funniest part of it all is that the more they hate you, the better it is, because they're so hated.
They're so hated.
You know, they're like, I don't think there's any group of people who inspire more pervasive and intense contempt than these people who are employees of media corporations, and with good reason. I encourage that. That is a valid reaction to hate them and to harbor contempt for them. They're liars, they're scumbags. They exist to propagandize and deceive and to serve power centers. That's what they're there to do. They deserve contempt. But because of how hated they are, if they start attacking you, maybe 10 years ago they would harm you, now they help you.
Yes.
Because so many people look at that and think, well, if they're really this obsessed with destroying him or her, that must be a person that's worth listening to. I'm going to go and see why they hate that person so much. And it's funny to watch. You know, I went on Twitter to tweet them about this, and it really is true. You know, Michael Tracy, who was one of the very few kind of non-MAGA RussiaGate skeptics from the very beginning, as relentless and systematic as Aaron and as you and as I was and as Taibbi was, he basically, his entire career was built because he stood up to those bullies.
Yeah.
And provoked their scorn and didn't care. And when people saw that he was uncaptive to them, he was liberated and emancipated from this shitty, rotted clique, people started paying attention more to Michael Tracy, and he grew a really big independent audience and has become uncancelable as well. So they know this, Jimmy, that they're you know, Freddie DeBoer wrote the kind of ultimate supreme essay about why these media people are so filled with hatred and why they're so bitter. You know, they have shitty jobs where they have to write like 8 articles a day rather, just pure clickbait. None of it has any impact. You know, they're working for failing digital outlets because they don't produce anything interesting and nobody trusts them. So they look around all the time and they have no job security because they're getting laid off by the dozens. It's a very unfulfilling job. They have zero freedom. They impact nothing. They have no power. All they do is have like this resentment that grows each year that they go backwards. And, you know, nobody likes embittered, rage-driven people full of a desire to be punitive and vengeful, and everyone sees that's what they are.
So I'm going to transcribe what you just said the last 45 seconds. I'm going to memorize it and say it on stage because it's really good. Mm-hmm. That was really funny. That was really a great takedown. That was fantastic. Okay.
It's a labor of love for me to spew scorn for them.
Yes. I love it. Yes. And that's the thing that I don't, if you're not looking for a job inside their world, they don't know what to do with you. Right. And I'm not looking for a job inside their world. So all they can do is, you know, try to trash me, smear me, and get me canceled. They even try to fake hashtag me too against me. They've tried everything and it's not working. It doesn't work.
And here you are with an audience size and a level of trust in your audience that they will never have if they live to be 5,000 years old. And they know that.
All right. We're doing a live Jimmy Dore show in Sacramento, October 3rd. We just added a second show. Plus, we're doing stand-up comedy in Florida, in West Palm Beach, and Dania. And then we're going to Buffalo, Baltimore, Tempe, and Portland. Go to JimmyDoreComedy.com for a link for all our tickets.